Out here in the shop working on the new table saw. Picked this one up yesterday afternoon, tore it all apart, started working on it last night. I just finished cleaning up the top. I'd let WD-40 sit on it overnight to soak in, make it a little easier to clean off all the surface rust. Got most of it off. It's not, perfect 100% restoration, but it's nice and smooth. Just finished 400 grit sandpaper on it. Cleaned out the channels for the miter. This one's a little rough. Whoever the last person that used it had left all the sawdust in there. Most likely they cut pine. Found tons of pine residue and resin, just caked, solidified with tons of rust underneath it. So that was a little rough. Took a lot of work to clean that one out. Cleaned out the channel for the insert. This was really caked too. As you can see, I mean, there's still a ton of rust in there. I could spend hours and hours cleaning this thing up. It's not really worth it for what I'm going to do with it, which is turn this into a dedicated dado machine. I've been using the 1940s Craftsman, this little one. Love it. It's been a great little machine. Other than the fence rail is that round bar you see there. That's a great piece of steel to run into. Hurts like you wouldn't believe. So anyway, that's not really the reason that I got this saw. The reason is this is a 1/2 inch arbor, and you can't really run a dado stack on it. I've been running a Black & Decker finishing blade. Very cheap blade. It actually works really well. Downside is it's very thin. So it takes forever to cut the half flaps on stands. You can't really do dados. I mean, you can see how many cuts I had to do just to get that 1 inch cleaned out. And that's a lot of cutting right there. So early winter, I started hunting for any other full size 5/8 arbor table saw to run a full dado stack on. Ended up getting really lucky. Found this one. Just needed a lot of elbow grease. Like I said, tore it all apart last night. Cleaned out the inside, took the motor off, cleaned most of that out. Yeah, it was really impacted. Down in here, cleaned off all the gears and I don't know what you call it. Like, it's basically just a gear drive spindle to raise the arbor up and down and do the 45 tilt. Got those all lubed up with the dry lube and just finished the table up. Cleaned all the parts. Took that old crappy blade off. That'll be great for cutting reclaimed because I don't really care about it. I can clean that up enough to sharpen the teeth. And yeah, you can see the sandpaper from the nasty crap that we cleaned off here. Nuts. This looks 100 times better than it did. This is the old fence. As you can see, somebody got a little close to the blade. This fence style is absolutely terrible. This is definitely another one of those that Craftsman changed because they realized they made a giant piece of crap. But it'll work for what I'm going to do. I'll end up putting an auxiliary fence on it anyway. I'll make it much more stable. And I always measure front back of the blade. And with dados, it really doesn't matter as long as your widest point is set. And the miter slot and the blade are at a perfect parallel. You're pretty much okay. The nice thing is, first thing I did last night was checked with my digital angle finder to see if the blade was at a 90 or if the arbor was off at all. And to my surprise, it was almost 100% perfect, 89.9. So, and I can get it to 90 in the front. It's a little tough at the top. That could be because of the blade. I mean, that is, anyone that knows what that is one cheap piece of garbage blade. So that could be bent, warped, whatever. Either way, I was very happy with that. Close to a 90, running a dado stack. It'll be perfect at the height. I'm only getting a 6-inch dado just because this is a 1-horse motor. Not only that, I mean, you don't really need an 8-inch other than for the width. 6-inch will do me fine. It's not quite as wide as an 8-inch, but you know, I'm used to making 700,000 cuts. A little exaggeration, but you know, a dado stack that's almost an inch wide is going to make my life, or half an inch wide, or a little bit wider. It's going to make my life easier. Anyway, cleaned up all the parts, and I'll be putting the fence back on, the fence rails, and modifying them. I'm going to shorten them up so that they are really not too much wider than the actual top. Again, I need the footprint to be relatively narrow, and I don't want to catch the fence bar like that ever again. I have a couple of nice bruises just from not paying attention, which is never a good thing in a shop, and I should admit that. But you know, you start moving pretty quick, and all of a sudden you start catching equipment on the corners, and I have a relatively small shop, so it gets tight in here real quick. 3 table saws doesn't make this any easier, but whatever. So I'll finish getting this all set up today, cut the fence, get the rails set, and then test out the dado stack when that comes in. Not really sure what I'm going to do with the 1940s Craftsman. I really like that saw. It works great as a crosscut saw. Maybe I'll use it for like the first cuts on the dado to eliminate tear out. That is a finishing blade, so it actually does a really, really good job with eliminating most tear out. That's a possibility. Plus, again, it makes a nice little crosscut saw. The miter gauge and the arbor are, I mean, it's like spot on parallel. So you can get everything set and make really nice 90s. It's a little cleaner than doing it on the miter. That's a great, you know, cutter. Man, that sounded dumb. Anyway, that is a great cutter though for, you know, doing your 90s, but this would be more accurate if I need finesse or something like that. And then we'll figure out what to do with it. That's a bit of a hoarding issue. Nobody really needs 3 table saws, but it actually comes in handy every once in a while, having more than one. So again, this will be a dedicated dado stack. Once that comes in, pretty excited. It's a little bit of elbow grease. It's not the saw that I want. Obviously, you know, like most, I would really, really like one of those, you know, nice yellow ones, or the ones that have the safety feature. That would be great, except, you know, as somebody else pointed out, I work with a lot of live edge, as you can see stacked up back there. So a 5-horse would be awesome. And if you've ever done the pricing on those, that's ridiculous. So it's, for what these are, they work really, really well. My cost of use is low and my enjoyment is much higher. I finished getting everything cleaned up and the fence rails on. Adjusted the actual fence itself after cleaning that up. I'll put auxiliary fence pieces on this as well. I got this set up so it moves pretty good. Once the auxiliaries are on, that'll move really, really well. So I threw on an old Delta steel blade. Just did the digital, and for the angle came out 90 on this side and 89.8 on this side. So I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, moment of truth. Let's see what it does. Oh yeah. Well, there is some pretty good vibration. Let's do this screwdriver test. So we'll put it back here. sounds good. There's definitely some vibration. The belt is old, so you know it has a shape to it. Like I said, they're not as good as the link belt. I'm going to try to get away with that for a little while, just because I don't want to buy another link belt, and I don't want to take this one off here because I really like that machine. So we'll work on that as time goes on. But otherwise, I mean, you know, it is not perfect. It's not exactly what I wanted. I really wanted to cut those rails short, but that's okay, because then I can move it over too. But I did get it just enough, so if I run full width on my jointer, I have clearance, so that's good. Yeah, I'm waiting for my dado stack to get here, and we'll really test this out. So I found the remnants of a cutoff wheel, which is awesome, and just spent some time cutting this end off here, so now I can be closer when I'm doing the dados, and that eliminates the issue of, you know, no space being able to be used because of this sticking out, which, look at that. That's one thing Craftsman didn't cheap out on. These fences are pretty impressive. I'm actually going to leave these. I've thought about it, and having the fence come out this way just for who knows, that'll be the one time that I need it and I don't have it, and it'll be a pain. But I will make the, you know, another piece of the top and then have it rounded on this end so I don't catch this on my hip, because it really hurts when you catch these. But overall, very, very happy right now. Lining the trunnions, which is basically the, for those that don't know, the way the arbor sits, making sure that it is exactly parallel with the miter slot. These older saws, I mean, it depends on how it was manufactured, who put it together. Not only that, you drop it a couple of times, which I'm pretty sure this one was, because the underside is bent a little bit down in here in the frame. So it can come out of square, and this one's off. You see no gap in the front, and then you see the gap in the back. So I just finished up with aligning the slot, the miter slot versus the blade, or against the blade. In order to do that, I had to loosen up. There's 3 trunnion bolts, one right there in the middle, one right there, and then one on the other side. And there, it's the same for the trunnion part up here, which you can kind of see, it's right here. So you loosen all 6 of those, and then, sorry about that. You loosen all 6 of those, and then align your arbor assembly. And let me get this so it's not on a tooth. And there you go. Much, much better. There is a tiny, tiny gap in the back. But the nice thing is that gap is actually on both sides. So the machining on the miter slots is actually just a tiny, tiny, tiny. I mean, it is less, it's like half or less than half the thickness of one of the markings on the rulers. And it's on both sides of the blade in the back. So that actually could be intentional. I'm not really sure. Just to allow for the piece to move freely without pinch. That's an educated guess, but it could just be because it's just bad machining. Either way, it is so insignificant that it's really not going to make a difference. But I'm just happy that, you know, we're now at a perfect parallel from the miter slot to here. But yeah, all set up and ready to go. Downside is I cannot use the plate that came with, or the insert that came with the table saw. I have to make a custom one. So the teeth on this catch on this edge. I'm going to grind this out. I actually have 2 of these because that is the same saw, just maybe a little bit newer. So I have 2 throat plates, and